This Week in Startups is brought to you by Black Tux, premium rental suits and tuxedos delivered. To get $20 off your purchase, visit theblacktux.com/twist. And LinkedIn, more than the world's largest professional network, it's also a better way to find great talent. Go to linkedin.com/twist and get a $50 credit toward your first job post. And Upstart, revolutionizing the process of personal lending. Checking your rate only takes 2 minutes and won't affect your credit at upstart.com/twist.
Hey everybody, welcome to This Week in Startups. I'm your host, Jason Calacanis. We do this show twice a week, 100 times a year, and it's my way of meeting great founders and having great discussions about how the world will change through the lens of startup companies. The vehicle by which the world changes most, I believe, is not politics or governments, not even science. I think the world changes most by entrepreneurs who leverage offers of science to make products that change the world. One of the ways in which I pick founders to be on this company is not through the tips line or suggestion form at our website. In fact, if you put your speaker through the suggestion form at our website, it is beyond highly unlikely you'll never be on the program. We pick people for the program by emailing the investors who I invest alongside, and I say, hey, what's interesting? What are you excited about? And I emailed my friend Jason Lemkin, who is one of the great software as a service investors in history and a great, great thinker and supporter of startups. And he introduced me to today's guest. Her name is Allie Janoch, and she is the CEO and founder of Mapistry, and she's been doing it since, 2014 or so. She graduated from the Merge Lane Incubator in Boulder. Currently, her company, Mapistry, is based in Berkeley and has recently raised $2.5 million. Congratulations, from Drummond Road Capital, Array Ventures, and Sasters Fund. Welcome to the program, Allie.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Congratulations on raising money.
Thank you.
It took you 4 or 5 years to raise a couple of $1 million.
Yep. It was a tough road.
A tough road. Yeah. Why was it tough? It seems like you have a product, a SaaS product that is something people need and makes money. Why did it take so long to raise the money? Or were you in the product market fit desert trying to figure out if people actually need? Were you lost in the wilderness trying to find product market fit like most founders?
Some of that, and some of it's difficult to explain to investors what we do. And so I think it took a while for me to figure out how to explain it to them so they could get excited about it.
Got it. So your ability to transfer enthusiasm about your own product and explain it was the challenge.
Yeah, part of it. I mean, there was definitely some product market fit challenges going on, but investors don't really have any idea what environmental compliance is or what that means. And so it's just tough for them to understand. Yeah.
And how did you find out about this weird, untapped little vertical that you're building Mapistry in, this compliance and environmental compliance? How did you find out about it?
So my background's in software.
Got it.
And then my co-founder, Ryan, his background is as an environmental civil engineer. So it's kind of about bringing our two skill sets together and fixing a problem he was seeing that is traditionally solved by environmental consultants, and it's very manual, and saying we can, automate this a whole lot more than it's being done right now.
And so what is the problem you solve?
Yeah. So the problem is that manufacturing companies and industrial companies, they have to comply with rules from the EPA and from state organizations. And basically the rules are put in place to protect the environment, to prevent them from polluting. But following those rules can be very difficult. There's a constant stream of requirements they have to keep up with. And basically right now, it's a large corporation saying to a plant manager at hundreds of plants across the country, make sure you follow all these rules. And I know you have all these other responsibilities, but make sure you follow the rules.
And those rules change? They're different by state?
Yes, definitely.
I'm assuming perhaps even different by city or state?
Well, mostly. It depends. I mean, it can even be different from facility to facility. Sometimes you have individual permits. Sometimes it's state by state. Sometimes it's federal level. It just depends on the domain you're talking about.
So you decided to apply software to this.
Yeah.
Which makes it dummy-proof, bulletproof, faster, cheaper, better? What?
I wouldn't say dummy-proof. It gives people at a corporate level a lot more insight into what's happening on the ground in real time, so they can deploy resources and help solve problems. So what often happens is there's some big issue happening on the ground that nobody knows about, nobody's aware of. And so then it goes on and on for years. They pollute for years and years and years. And then the company gets sued for a lot of money. A lot of times it could have been a problem that they could have easily fixed if somebody realized it was happening.
Got it. So how is this done? Is it just software or is it sensors? And what are the main parts of this environmental planning that these locations have to deal with? I know storm drains is a big part of this, right? Like you got to be careful not to dump stuff into storm drains when you are building a new building or whatever.
Yes.
But what are the major categories that you help them resolve in terms of regulations and compliance?
So we started with, so our big vision is environmental compliance more broadly, but we started with stormwater regulations, which basically means companies are required to follow these rules so that when it rains, water picks up pollutants on the ground, and that goes down a storm drain. And then if there are pollutants in that water, it just goes straight out into, if we're here in San Francisco, the bay, and it doesn't get treated. People don't realize that. It doesn't go to a treatment plant. It just goes straight to the bay. Right.
A lot of California's like that. I remember Santa Monica was like that as well.
The whole country. I mean, well, there's some exceptions where they're combined, but the rule is that it all goes untreated.
And the reason storm drains go directly into the ocean is what? When they do activate, there's too much water flow to actually process them?
Yeah. So with something like wastewater, it's pretty predictable how much water you're going to get on a daily basis. But with stormwater, it's totally unpredictable, and it would be, infeasible to have a treatment system that could handle the spikes of treatment that they would need to handle.
And then a lot of the garbage that's in our oceans comes from these storm drains that just go directly out there.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of sources of garbage in our oceans, but yes, that's part of it.
And so if you are working at a construction site and the chemicals are getting dumped on the concrete when it rains, they just flow right out and then right out into the ocean. And then, that's really bad.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why these regulations exist?
Yes, exactly.
You create the software that does what?
So there's a number of requirements, but some of the basic ones are they're supposed to do regular inspections to identify problems and then fix them. So instead of giving someone a paper form and saying, make sure you remember to do this once a month.
Yeah.
The fact that they're doing the inspection is tracked in Mapistry. The inspection itself is done in Mapistry. Any issues that they're finding are being tracked. So that's like one piece of it. Another big piece is sampling. They're supposed to take regular water samples and have those analyzed. A lot of companies do an okay job at actually taking the samples, but nobody actually looks at the results. So part of the point the main reason you take the samples is to look at the results and then say, we need to make some changes, or we're doing okay.
Yeah.
And if nobody looks at the results, then nobody's making any changes.
And this was previously done what? Like people would put it in their Excel document or their little note-taking app inside their Evernote on their mobile phone?
Probably not Evernote.
Back of an envelope?
Yeah. Excel spreadsheet would be like high-tech solutions.
What about sensors? Have you guys thought about putting sensors into the storm drains and saying, hey, we can actually sense when there's chemicals, or is that technology just not available yet or too costly?
It's a cost issue. So as we move into other areas like wastewater and air, we'll start relying more frequently on sensors. But stormwater requirements for a variety of reasons only require you to sample on sort of an infrequent basis. Part of this is because you only need to worry about it when it rains, and it doesn't rain every day.
Got it.
So putting in a sensor would just be fairly expensive considering the cost it takes to just have like a human go out and take the sample.
Got it. When we get back from this quick break, I want you to answer the question that I get most often from new founders, which is, how do I find a great co-founder? You found a great co-founder who complements you. You're the software person on the team, and they're the domain expert with the environmental studies experience. So when we get back on This Week in Startups, how Allie Janoch found her co-founder. Let me take a moment to thank the Black Tux. If you're having a wedding or an event where you need to wear a suit or a tuxedo, the Black Tux, TUX.com, is your answer. high-quality rental suits and tuxedos ordered online and then delivered to your doorstep. Create your look or choose from tons of stylist-selected outfits. Now, suits usually retail for $1,200, but at the Black Tux, they start at just $95. Expert customer care has your back every step of the way. Free home try-on. You can see the fit and feel the quality of the suit months before the event. After ordering, your suit will arrive 14 days before your event, so you don't have any agita. Easy peasy. And if anything is less than perfect, the Black Tux will send you a free replacement right away, with plenty of time to get that suit or tux before your event. When the event's over, you drop your rental box in the mail, and boom, shipping is free both ways. So here's your call to action. Get $20 off your first purchase. Visit theblacktux.com/twist, theblacktux.com/twist. That's theblacktux.com/twist for $20 off your purchase. And remember, premium rental suits and tuxedos delivered to you with no drama, easy peasy. It works pretty well. People here are using it. Okay, let's get back to this amazing episode. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to This Week in Startups. Please follow the show on Twitter at TWI Startups. I'm no longer using Twitter. I'm moving back to my email list. If you want to, it's just too toxic. It's all so toxic. I hate it. So I deleted it off my phone, and I'm going to focus on writing essays. I'm going to try to write 2 or 3 essays a week. If you want to get on that email list, just DM me on Twitter, and I'll put your email on there. But I'm kind of doing it quietly and in the background. It's just so toxic. Are you on Twitter?
Yeah, but I agree.
Does it cause anxiety for you when you open the app? Do you feel a sense of anxiety and dread?
I guess not, but I don't use it that much, and I sort of use it more like just to keep up to date on news. And
got it.
Yeah.
I have this sense of anxiety and dread now when I open the app, which I'm not an anxious person, but just the amount of news coming at us today, like Mueller investigation and then China and trade wars, and just everything is so chaotic that just watching the news stream can cause paralysis in your life, because you're oh my God, is this going to ever be resolved? And it's oh no, it's just going to be chaos for the rest of our lives. It's a whole different reset.
Yeah, I'm optimistic that it won't be forever.
Yeah. The chaos will not last forever. So when we left our hero, that's you, Allie, you seem to have found the perfect complement for a co-founder who is also your husband.
Yes.
I just read that in the notes.
Yeah.
Now, wait a second. Was he your husband and then you started the company together? Or did you start the company together and then become husband and wife? Yeah, explain the history of this, because this is also one of those red flags for some investors.
I know.
Let's talk about that candidly, too.
Yeah. So my co-founder is my husband. We'd been married for 4.5, 5 years when we started the company, and been together for a long time. I would think that would sort of mitigate issues that investors might have, but I don't know that it really did. I think that starting a company with your spouse is a great way to do it, because you have all this trust. I mean, I can't imagine trusting anyone like I trust my husband.
Yeah.
And then also if you have a good marriage, you've probably already worked out all these issues with communication, what to do when you disagree, what to do when you have arguments.
Yeah.
And so you kind of have a head start, I think, on a lot of those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
And everybody jokes that finding a co-founder is like dating and that it's a marriage and all this stuff, but then investors don't want to invest in people who are married.
It's pretty interesting. Did they explicitly tell you they don't want to invest in it, or did they bring it up and just go, and kind of you got the sense that they were breathing
Yeah, mostly the latter, but I did have one meeting where I think we were in the meeting for 30 minutes, and then the guy was like, "Oh, you guys are married? We don't invest in married co-founders. We might as well just wrap this up."
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think that is illegal.
No, I mean,
because
it's not just...
It's weird.
Yeah, but it's not... Being married is not a protected class.
Right. It's not like you're... Yeah, because if you were oh, you're trans, oh, you're Puerto Rican, or oh, you're Irish.
Yeah, or oh, we don't invest in women.
We don't invest in women. That would be, I'm just thinking through it.
That would be illegal.
But we don't invest in people who are married together is not illegal.
Yeah.
But it is weird that you wouldn't consider it and have a hard, fast rule. You could say you need to put in the documents what will happen in the case of a divorce.
Yeah.
Which would be fairly easy to do in the case of divorce, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I have my equity and Ryan has his. It's not like it's all mixed up together.
Sure.
I mean, I think of it as being all together, but
Right.
legally it's not. I think for the most part, people weren't explicit about it. The other thing is I kind of had in my back pocket, like, well, look at all these successful companies founded by married people.
Yeah, Eventbrite, the Hartzes.
Yeah.
Brian Sugar.
Yeah, and Diane Green started VMware with her husband.
Yeah. Completely possible. Y Combinator, right? Wasn't Paul Graham's wife, Jessica, also? They were co-founders?
I don't think they were married when they started it.
Oh,
but
okay. Yeah, so-
but they were dating, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the answer to my question of how you found such a great complementary co-founder was you just looked to your left.
Yeah.
And there was a person standing next to you and said,
Well, sort of. I mean, when I started the company, Ryan, so I had sort of been picking his brain for ideas. I'd been throwing around a bunch of different ideas, and one of the strategies I was doing was asking Ryan about what he was struggling with at work, which I'd sort of heard about for years. And I got really interested in some of those problems. And I quit my job and started working on it. And he was just sort of consulting in the evenings in an unofficial capacity for, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 months. And then I finally convinced him to actually join with me. So it was just me for a short while.
this is a really interesting technique that you discovered for finding pressing problems in an industry.
Yeah.
When people's when people's head hits the pillow at night and they lament to their spouse and their partner, today was a horrible day because we have to get all these environmental reports done, whatever.
Yeah.
Like that would be where like somebody could, that's an environment where people feel safe with their spouse or their partner and where they can say candidly what is the biggest problem. We just need to go to married couples and say, what did your spouse say was the worst part of your job today? And then build the software to fix that.
Yeah.
It's an interesting model.
I mean, I think people are always looking for like an outside source of ideas, and they don't want Silicon Valley can be very insular, and then you end up building all these startups that sell to other startups and these kind of things.
Yeah. Well, I got to ask, if you got the idea from him and then you started it, did he like lean over and be like, hey, wait a second, that was my idea. Do I get equity? What's my finder's fee here?
No, not really. Yeah. I mean, like, I guess people say like the ideas are the easy things, right?
They are, for sure. Yeah, no, the execution's everything. What's your tip for getting through the objection with investors? How did you finally break through? And is the Drummond Road Capital, is that David Drummond from Google or?
No, that's one of our angel investors who continued on with the seed round, but the main investors, Jason from SaaS.
Great. How did you get past the objection, or over time, how did you learn to deal with that? Was it just look at the revenue and look at the high function product? Like time, we've been at this for 4 years.
Yeah, I think that a lot of objections that we got early on, we just overcame by having some real revenue and impressive logos and some proof of product market fit. Also, specifically with Jason, some interesting sort of tidbits that maybe just got lucky. Jason and his wife have founded SaaSter together. I think people don't realize that, especially because they have different last names. So that might have made him not worried about that issue. And then in terms of, I think a common objection I had was just investors saying, look, I guess hear all these pitches all day long. You guys are doing this weird thing that I don't really understand. I'm not sure how I can help as much as I can with this other company that gave me an equally good pitch. I'm going to go with those guys. But Jason had, his first company was in the manufacturing space. And so he knew a little bit about environmental compliance. He knew that we had someone on the team that dealt with that and we had some issues with that. So I kind of get the problem.
So you convinced them not the marriage issue wasn't the issue. The issue was, is this niche business something that could become large?
Yeah.
And is this thing where I don't have any insights into it somewhere where I can help? Because that's what investors always say. I want to help. I want to be helpful. I don't understand this. So you had to take them through the education of what's at stake here? Yeah.
And also explain to them that I think even though you don't understand the minutia of environmental compliance, at the core, we're a SaaS business. We're selling to, big Fortune 500 kind of size companies. And so the sales process, the marketing processes, a lot of this stuff is similar to any other SaaS company.
And the product cost 10, 20, 30K a year, something in that range?
Well, they pay based on the number of facilities that they have. So it's, so that's like standard price is about $5,000 per facility. So if they have hundreds of facilities, eventually going to paying us a lot more than that. But, it's a land and expand.
Tesla has a factory and they have the Gigafactory and they're a customer. So they would be paying you for each one separately.
Yeah, exactly.
But the gigafactory, you might have to come up with unique pricing for, since it's kind of the equivalent of 100 factories.
Yeah, so there is some flexibility. Like we don't have a price list published, which a lot of, SaaS companies won't do because of that exact thing. Because we do a lot of customer support, and that part obviously can scale if you have a huge factory.
All right, when we get back after this quick break, let's demo the product. Let's show people what you built when we get back on This Week in Startups. Yes, LinkedIn Jobs. I love LinkedIn. I've been spending a ton of time on LinkedIn. I love the new feed, by the way, where you can share information and see what your friends are up to. But putting aside their amazing new feed, that's highly addictive, I want to talk today about hiring. We all know that hiring is hard. We have many open positions here, and it takes us months to find high-quality candidates. And you know that your business is only as strong as the people you have working for you, like Emmy Award-winning producer Jackie and Jason DeMond, who runs the incubator. We have all these great people here. Well, where are those great people? They're on LinkedIn. It's the world's largest professional network, and it's the best way to find great talent. All that talent is sitting there ready and waiting. Yes, 70% of the U.S. workforce is already on LinkedIn. And if you're hearing my voice, you have a LinkedIn page. I know you do. And that means you also know that you're going to find quality candidates on LinkedIn. Businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs 40% higher than job boards at delivering quality candidates. And you know why this is. It's because it's the world's largest professional network. So just ask the hundreds of thousands, yes, hundreds of thousands of businesses that have posted to LinkedIn Jobs over the past year. 22 million professionals, and this is the amazing number, view and apply to jobs on LinkedIn every week. I'm not saying 22 million people log on to LinkedIn every week. That would be an amazing number in and of itself. No, 22 million people look at the jobs and apply to the jobs on LinkedIn every week. And that's in every industry. So if you're not using LinkedIn for your hiring needs, you are missing out. Here's your call to action, and this is a good one. I want you to go to linkedin.com/twist, linkedin.com/TWIST. When you go there, you're going to get a $50 credit towards your first job posting. Think about that. $50 is sitting there waiting for you. So I want you to pull over. I want you to get in front of your computer. I want you to get offline at Blue Bottle or wherever you're having your espresso and go to linkedin.com/twist, linkedin.com/twist, and get that $50 credit. Terms and conditions apply, of course, like any of these things. And I can tell you, we've had an incredible run finding highly talented people on LinkedIn and using LinkedIn Jobs. So get that $50 and give it a shot. Let me know how it goes for you. LinkedIn.com/twist. Hey, and go follow me. Add me as a contact on LinkedIn. You can find me, Jason Calacanis. I'm right there. And you'll see how often I'm on there. I'm posting clips from the show. I'm asking questions. LinkedIn is just on fire. So go ahead and go to linkedin.com/twist for your $50 credit today. All right, let's get back to this amazing episode. Welcome back, everybody. My guest today, Allie Janoch, and she is the CEO and I guess co-founder of Mapistry. You're co-founders, or?
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. And they recently raised some money from our friend Jason Lemkin at SaaSter. He always says that his job is to get you a sales lead and to grow your sales team. Mm-hmm. Was that why you went with him as an investor?
The reason I wanted to talk to him in the first place was because I'd been reading his stuff for a long time and I found it really helpful. And then when I had my first meeting with him, it just, he was able to sort of get past a lot of the common objections I got from first meetings and understand the nuances of our business a little bit more quickly. And so that was really impressive.
Got it. So when you're evaluating an investor, the fact that they put great content in the world that resonated with you was a big plus. That's why you wanted them. You're seeking them out.
Yep.
Now you get an idea of why I do This Week in Startups.
Yeah.
People listen to it. They're like, hey, that guy's smart. I want him on my team. And then second, he figured it out real quick.
Yes.
And so to you, having somebody who's quick-witted, smart, clever, whatever, able to grok this is important.
Yeah.
as an investor, because you don't have to sit there and like hold their hand through everything.
Yeah, I think one of the best moments of that in my first meeting with him was I had this slide that I added because I had this standard objection that a bunch of investors had, and he was like, "Oh, we don't need to."
What was that objection?
So we have this like land and expand strategy. Customers will usually use us at a relatively small number of factories and then expand from there. So when you look at the slide with all the logos, it's like, wait, why do you have customers like 3M and all these other big companies, but your revenue is only whatever it was at the time?
Yeah.
And so I had to explain, just because they're only paying us X right now doesn't mean they couldn't be paying us 100X in 2 years.
Right. And land and expand is something he knows very well. If you get the 5, 10K per facility deal with 1 or 2 facilities with 3M or Georgia Pacific or any of these great logos you have on your deck, they can evaluate it. Of course they're going to evaluate it before they roll it out.
Yeah.
That's how business works. They don't just roll out to every single person in the organization typically.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're just starting that process. All right, let's demo the product for a quick second here, and I'll sportscast it for people who are listening. So if you're listening, I'll do a little sportscasting.
Okay.
But assume people are listening. So we're looking at an interface here. It says Mapistry, and
it's kind of cut off a little bit there. But anyway, so this is what you see when you first come in.
Yep. Hit Command Plus for a second. You know how you can do that Command Plus 2 times, and it'll make it bigger.
Yeah.
Perfect. Now we can really see it. Look at that. How beautiful that is. Okay, Mapistry, right?
Okay. So you see so on the left, you've got all your sites. This is a pretty small company with only 3 locations, or maybe it's a pilot. And they can see a quick summary of how they're doing. Obviously, red stuff is bad. They can see which inspections they've completed and how they're doing on samples. And this example is stormwater samples. They can see tasks that they've had assigned to themselves.
And as an example here, it's saying, hey, there's level 2 zinc and lead and oil.
Yeah.
And they've got their stormwater samples, and they've done, 1 month of those, and they have the routine observations. And then it says frequent SPCC. What does frequent SPCC stand for?
Yeah, so SPCC is spill prevention and counter control measures. So that's a new area that we're going into that's not stormwater. It's about oil and petroleum tanks and making sure they have to basically inspect them and make sure they don't spill.
Got it. And then you have to have like a ring around them, so if they do spill, it contains it?
Yeah, secondary containment.
Secondary containment. I know this because I watched The Walking Dead. And they had a scene where the oil spilled out and it got to the secondary containment area.
Yeah. And then, let's see, I'll show you. Can
I ask a stupid question?
Yeah, go for it.
The people who get the fines are being inspected by themselves. So if I were to see that we had zinc and oil and grease going into the storm drain, if I report myself, then I get fined? Isn't there a perverse incentive to lie on the report?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of self-reporting, which is a little weird. I think so the sampling part is not self-reported in the sense that you take the sample, but you have to send it off to a lab, and they have to be certified by the government. So that part, it's hard to lie about.
Well, you could take a sample from a site is clean, and then put the label on that this is from from the dirty site. Yeah,
you could, and I'm sure that happens. Obviously, it's fraud, and you could get in a whole lot of trouble for it.
I would assume you would go to jail if you did something like that, or it'd be pretty bad.
Yeah, you can definitely go to jail.
Why is it not done by a third party?
Well, you can hire a third party. Logistically, it's really challenging to do some of this stuff with a third party because, like, for example, with sampling, you do it when it rains. So if you're a company that wants to provide that service, what do you do with all those people when it's not raining? And how do you have enough staff to go to all your customers when it rains? And
crazy.
What do you do the rest of your time?
Yeah, because if you were to just put a hose on it, you'd be wasting water.
Yeah.
That would be kind of...
Well, and you're not allowed to do that. It has to be when it rains.
It has to be rainwater.
Yeah.
Because you have to go across a wide enough surface, I bet, to be representative of that.
Yeah.
If you just did a hose, you'd only be doing a tiny little area.
Yeah, exactly.
And it would be a weird reading.
Yeah. But with regards to your point about people maybe committing fraud and how it'd be in some ways relatively easy, one of the reasons our customers are really scared is not because of getting caught by the government. It's they're worried about getting sued by third parties. So if people have most people have seen Aaron Brockovich or something.
Yes.
So it's the same concept. A lot of the Clean Water, Clean Air Act rules are set up so that you can get caught by the government and get fined, or you can get sued by in a citizen
class action for $100 million or $1 billion.
Yeah, or smaller, but they're the whole range. But yeah, so then the idea there is that there's private citizens that are sort of being an extra check when the government doesn't have the resources to oversee all of this stuff.
Got it. That is fascinating.
Yeah.
And so people will pay you per site, $5K.
Yep.
All this stuff is tracked, nice and neat, easy peasy.
Yep.
And you were going to show us another side here?
Yeah, I was just going to real quick. So the reason we're called Mapistry is because mapping is really important. So we make mapping really easy. We try to make it really...
So what I'll describe for people listening here is a beautiful slide that shows the building, the evacuation routes, the flow direction, spill response kits, I guess, which are, if a spill does occur, how do you deal with that, the site boundaries, and some satellite accumulation areas. I guess the satellites look and say, hey, stuff is accumulating here. This would be an area where something bad could happen.
No, it's like a place where you put any hazardous materials that need to be disposed of. Then third party will come and pick that up at a regular schedule. So
this is great because now you have a standard overhead look at where the boilers are and the drainage areas and the equipment, evacuation routes, the flow direction, all this stuff. So when a new person comes on the job,
yeah, exactly.
Day one, they don't have to ask, where does this evacuate to? They know.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a huge problem with turnover. Factories have huge amounts of turnover, and things aren't documented correctly. We're trying to get a customer right now who is literally relying on hand-drawn maps from the 60s.
For sure. Yeah, of course. That's how it was done. And if the building goes on fire or there's a flood, they lose the map, and then they got to send a site surveyor out and start from zero.
Yeah, and what if something changes? How do you update it?
Oh, it's crazy.
So you don't update it.
Right, exactly. You're like, see here this big parking lot? Yeah, that's building 1 now.
Yeah, exactly.
That used to be parking lot C. It's now building
20 years ago. But
and then finally here on the last slide, you were going to show us something as well.
Last tab, I was just going to show you.
This is your metrics.
Yeah, so this is something that we're working on making even better. It's sort of a new part, but I think as we go up market to bigger and bigger companies and they're going to have maybe hundreds of facilities, it's really important for them to be able to easily identify where should I focus my efforts. I'm at corporate. I can't look at each individual facility. I need to know the facility that's never doing any of their inspections or something.
Right. So this is the heads-up display for the person in the corporate office in New York who's going to have the lawsuit mention their name as the person in charge if this hits the fan. And they're going to look at this, and we all know what runs downhill. Yeah. Speaking of storm drains. And if you don't do your inspections, and out in Berkeley, they're going to be getting a first-class flight to Berkeley, and they're going to come out and visit you and say, hey, what's up?
Exactly.
And this is, if you measure it, you can manage it, and you're measuring what matters. So you're going to do incredible good in the world by helping people who actually have good intent and an incentive to not screw up.
Yep.
Actually manage this.
Yeah. I mean, one of the ways I look at it is that so the government can put in all these rules, but if the rules are too hard to follow, companies are going to do their best, but they're going to fall short. And if they're too expensive to follow, they're going to fall short of meeting the requirements. So if we can make it easier and cheaper to follow the rules, then the incentives flip, and it's worth it to follow the rules.
Yeah, it's literally like Napster versus Spotify. It's like, oh, I can give you $7 a month.
Yeah, exactly.
And get everything and not feel like I'm stealing.
Yeah.
Or I can go on Napster and steal all the music or BitTorrent or whatever you're using and then worry that I'm going to get busted and go to jail and have this existential risk in my life that I am a horrible human being for stealing.
Yeah, it's all about risk.
Yes, everybody, let me tell you about a great new service called Upstart. They will help you get your path to financial freedom. And I know that path can look bleak when you have those high interest debt loans crushing you. And if your FICO score isn't great, it's going to get worse. Well, Upstart is revolutionizing the process of personal lending. They offer personal loans, but not like the ones from a bank or a credit union. No, they go beyond the traditional FICO score, and they assess your credit worthiness. How do they do this? They give you a loan based on potential rather than your history. So they will reward you based on your education and job history with a smarter interest rate. Quick. 2 minutes, you go online, zip, 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 and you find out your Upstart rate. Checking your Upstart rate is always free. You can do it in 2 minutes, and it's free. And most importantly, it's not going to affect your credit. Once the loan is approved, your funds will be transferred to you the next business day. 100,000 users have paid off their credit cards funded a wedding or made a large purchase. And the team from Upstart, it's a bunch of ex-Googlers I found out. I was taking a look at the company. Really, really smart team over there. So here's your call to action. It's super simple. You just go to upstart.com/twist. Make sure you do that, upstart.com/twist, TWIST, so that they know that you came from this program, and you will find out how low your Upstart rate is. Checking your rate only takes 2 minutes. It does not affect your credit. I'm going to say it again. It will not affect your credit, and it only takes 2 minutes. That's upstart.com/twist. And here's a disclaimer. Loans are made by Cross River Bank, and FDIC insured New Jersey state chartered commercial bank. Restrictions apply. Details at upstart.com/twist. Upstart.com/twist. Welcome to the family Upstart. Okay, let's get back to this amazing episode. So the company's been around for a couple of years. Mm-hmm. How do you acquire these new customers, and what have you learned about that? Because you're coming into an area where people are using maps from the 60s, and I'm at best an Excel or Google sheet with checkboxes in it. So these are typically people who are not tech savvy. Do you sell into them, or do you sell into the boss in the home office and say, let's get your team tech savvy?
Yeah, so...
Or have you figured that out yet?
Yeah, so we usually sell to the environmental department. They're not total Luddites, but they're not super tech savvy. Right. They're not your typical early adopters. One of the key things that we found that works really well is a lot of content. So our customers aren't out there searching for like environmental software solutions or stormwater software solutions. Instead, they're Googling or looking to consume content about how to solve their problems with zinc in their water, for example. So we do a lot of blogging, we do a lot of webinars, and that's how people usually find us to start. And then from there, they start to realize, hey, these guys really know what they're talking about. And when this software thing keeps getting weaved into this webinar that I'm reading, maybe that's the way to solve my problems.
So you put out great content.
Yeah.
That is the honey pot. They come in, you're giving them content that helps them.
Yes.
With no expectation of them to pay you for that content or a reward. They then become aware of Mapistry.
Yeah.
And once they're aware and they've moved down the funnel from not knowing who you are to knowing who you are, then they know what you do. Mm-hmm. And then somebody gives them a phone call, or they engage themselves. They opt in through a webinar.
Exactly.
Webinars work, huh?
Yeah, they work for us. I mean, I should run the numbers, but I think nearly all of our customers have attended multiple webinars before they become customers. It's a huge source of leads for us.
And what do you use? GoToWebinar or something like that?
Yep, we do.
It's like $500 a month.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, we use that too. We used it for a couple of different webinars that we've done. It's pretty organized. It lets people ask questions and sort them.
Yeah, we do that a lot. We do live questions.
And so how do you acquire customers to a webinar? Do you invite them over email, like find them on LinkedIn and invite them to a webinar? Or do you buy ads? How do you do that?
Yeah, so we don't do much ad buying at the moment, or any, I guess. We have a pretty big list of emails at the moment, so we definitely do a lot of email.
How'd you get those?
So the first way we seeded our list was California has a pretty good website for the public to view stormwater compliance data. And one of the things that they had made visible, which they probably shouldn't have, was emails.
Oops.
So
good hack. Yeah.
So that's how we started. And then
I was reading your compliance report at the government website.
Yeah. Sometimes people get a little freaked out by the fact that you can find out so much about them without actually talking to them first.
Yeah. It's called living in a free society where you are required to take care of your fellow citizens by not poisoning them and giving them cancer.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Exactly.
Boo-hoo. You have to sign a report. But they make people sign these reports so that they know their S is on the line, correct?
Yes. There's a legally responsible person at every single industrial facility, and they could get sent to jail.
Wow. Why do people take that job? That seems to me like the craziest high-risk job you could ever take. Like some idiot spills turpentine into the sewage drain and then you're going to jail.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's not quite that. I mean, people don't go to jail that often.
Right.
They're going to jail more like because of fraud.
Systematic fraud.
Yeah. But still, I mean, sometimes we're surprised that, like the owner of a relatively small company has the facility manager being the legally responsible person. And we're like, it probably should be the owner. I think you are kind of getting thrown on the bus here.
Right. They don't even know that they're, The facility manager then is made to make those requirements. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
So you find the people who actually file the reports, easy peasy.
Yes. Yeah.
Then you get them on a webinar and you say, hey, here's a better solution.
Yeah. We do a lot of outbounds as well. We with this round of funding, we were able to hire an SDR and some more salespeople. So now we're doing a lot more like outbound.
What do you got? 12 people in the company? Something like that?
16.
16. Perfect.
Yeah.
And you've got 80 companies using it. Those are all paying or half paying? Oh, wow. It's great.
Yeah.
What's your take on free trials? Everybody's always telling me they're like, oh, we're doing free trials. We're not charging people yet. I always get a little upset. I'm like,
Yeah.
what do you think about these free trials or letting people have the milk for free kind of situation?
So we don't do free trials at the moment. I mean, we have occasionally we'll make an exception, but there's just no way to like go on Mapistry and sign up for free.
Because there's onboarding.
Yeah, there's so much onboarding involved. I mean, it's not so much, but it's enough onboarding that if you just get this like blank slate, I think the conclusion is kind of, I don't really know if this is right for me. I do want us to eventually have a free trial that sort of seeds the demo site with a bunch of fake data, and so you can kind of play around with it as another experiment. But in the past, we've experimented with free trials, and they don't work. I think the other reason is that for us, it's not just about deciding that we're going to start using software. It's about making operational changes. It's like Mapistry helps you identify problems, but then you have to commit to fixing them, which often requires something being done in the physical world.
Right.
So if you're not even willing to pay a few $1,000s to get a site as a pilot, I don't know that you're really going to be committed to making operational changes.
Is there a list of people who've been fined and who are screwing up? Because that seems to me like those would be the Glenn leads, right? Glenn Ross leads. Like those must be the best leads.
Yes. So all the people who've been fined is available online in various government websites. But then the other thing that you can get with the Freedom of Information Act request is everyone who's been sued. So we've been doing a lot of research on that, where we are collecting. I mean, it's a little bit painful data to sift through because it's all just like PDFs. It's not like in a database.
No.
So we have some interns combing through it. And
this is where like Upwork or like there's Mechanical Turk, like what's in this
it's
photo?
too hard for that.
It's way too hard. Then there's Upwork, which is probably not it. And then there's like a layer above that of like $30 or $40 an hour. Folks who can actually read and have college educations and native language speakers for whatever language you're doing
we have a law student who's an environmental law student spending the summer helping us comb through these lawsuits.
Yeah, if you can make that a systematic process, you just have the leads flowing in.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
So is this your first startup or you've done this before?
Well, it's the first time I founded a startup, but after grad school I joined and I was maybe like the 10th person at a startup.
Oh yeah, where'd you go to grad school?
Berkeley.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Computer science.
Yes.
Awesome. How's the Berkeley program? A lot of people choose that program. They like Berkeley a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it was great for me. I was in the PhD program and then decided that a PhD wasn't for me, so I can't speak about like the undergraduate program or even the master's. But I mean, I thought it was amazing. I did a bunch of really cool research and was surrounded by incredibly smart people, which was a really cool experience.
And the company's based out in Berkeley?
Yes.
So you have a nice short commute, and you have access to all that talent. Is it an advantage being over there? Do you just, people who live in the East Bay are like, this is great, I can go to Berkeley and not have to cross the Bay Bridge and take BART?
Yeah, I think so. Though so far we probably haven't completely tapped into the Berkeley like early people who are graduating from Berkeley yet. I actually ended up hiring a CTO in Florida, and we've now hired a bunch of people that he had worked with in the past. So our tech team is actually in Florida, which is kind of weird, but it just turned out that way. So, but everyone, I think we have one employee who lives in San Francisco. Everyone else lives in the East Bay.
Amazing. So, not to get too political, but my understanding is our president, not sure if you voted for them or not, founder from Berkeley.
Well, yeah, if you saw on my back my laptop, my Hillary stickers.
Yeah, I'm not going to take a guess with the 2 Hillary stickers on there. But we do hear the president talk about getting rid of regulations and this incredible process of if you want to add a regulation, you got to get rid of 2. What an incredible idea.
Yeah.
That sounds super logical. That's like a Peter Thiel type logic. I mean, I appreciate Peter Thiel and I appreciate the sentiment there that there's too much red tape. Are they actually rolling back a ton of stuff at the EPA or is that just talk and bluster right now? Or is that actually happening? And how concerned are you about it?
Yeah, so this is a super common question I get. Investors are really worried about it, et cetera. So there's a bunch of things going on. So one, there is some stuff being rolled back. So Scott Pruitt, who's the head of the EPA now, has rolled back some of the clean power plant stuff. And, we've exited from the Paris Climate Accord and things like that.
And Pruitt's out, right? He resigned.
Yeah. But
this guy was quite a piece of work.
Yeah, I don't think he's been replaced yet.
He was a unique individual.
Yeah. But the things that have been rolled back are all things that have been done recently. So they are bad rollbacks, in my opinion. They haven't so far affected our business because we're basically relying on Clean Water Act, Clean Air Act, stuff that's been in place since the 60s. So I think that there's a natural cadence of whenever we have a Democrat in office, we get a little bit more environmental regulation. The Republicans might scale it back a little bit, but
there's some balance there.
Yeah, I think in general, we're moving towards a more regulated place. Then there's also issues like California is doing a lot, and a lot of other states are adding their own regulations that go way above and beyond federal. So that makes it more complicated. Companies don't like the unpredictability of a new president coming in and saying, we're going to undo what the last president did. And then feeling like, well, maybe the next president's going to come and just redo what Obama did. So maybe we should just continue with our plans. I think big corporations, the last thing they want to do is every 3 years, totally rethink their environmental
predictability
compliance.
And a lack of chaos would be good.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, are you directionally positive or concerned about how the planet is doing? Because you get to see these insights.
Yeah.
And obviously you're working with specific factories and providing all that great stuff in Mapistry, but you must have some insight overall. Do you think that we're really going to have a cataclysmic environmental disaster and that these heat waves and everything are going to have a truly detrimental impact on humanity?
I think we're already seeing that. Yeah. So yes, I think the answer is that I think we can still do a lot to mitigate the effects of, climate change and all the pollution that is going on. But there's a lot of things that are too late to fix. But there's a lot. I think that in a lot of cases, there's a lot that we can still do. I mean, for example, the Clean Water Act, which is what we mostly rely on, was put into place in the 60s because there were all these rivers that were really polluted. I think it was the Chicago River caught on fire and all this crazy stuff.
The Hudson, there was no fish left in, and they were like, if you catch a fish in the Hudson River in New York State, don't eat it, you'll die. It's going to have radiation and it's going to be horrible. 3 hours kind of situation.
Exactly. Where I grew up in Massachusetts, these part of the elementary school curriculum was we had these people come from the local river watershed and talk to us about how paper plants were putting so much paper pulp into the river that you could walk across it a lot of times. So that kind of stuff isn't happening anymore, right? At least in the U.S. So there is some things that we can do to undo things that we're doing to pollute the environment. I think some of the stuff we're doing with climate change is a lot scarier because it's not so easy to undo, melting ice caps.
Yeah. And if we do, the problem is we're in this illogical argument over if it's happening or not. And putting aside how mind-blowing it is that people could disregard a consensus like you've never seen in the scientific community is not going to have consensus often. Yeah. Right? It's not a consensus-driven phenomenon. They fight over things with each other and they do research and they battle it out for grants. They've all come to the same conclusion. This is happening. And, but even if you thought it was inconclusive, the cost of not addressing it is so great that even if it is a small chance, you would still want to address it. And the analogy would be if I put a revolver on the table and it was a 1 in 500 chance that there would be a bullet in the chamber, you'd still want to empty the gun before you put it to the side of your head and clicked it, right? It's a 99.9% chance you're not going to get the bullet. Yeah, I'm still taking the bullet out of the gun.
Yeah, but I think a lot of the stuff that happens at, the government level, it's a lot about short and long-term consequences and incentives. So if you're an elected official, you're not, I mean, maybe you're concerned about your grandkids, but you're also really concerned about getting reelected and your donors. And so you want to do what's best in the short term. And climate, we're not going to have a cataclysmic, meltdown in the next 3 years. So I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to do what's
down
best.
The road.
Yes, exactly.
Disaster. And then China, India, causing massive pollution in the world.
Yeah.
Are they getting better? And do you see those as markets where you could then localize the product? Because I do think India is starting to take it more seriously. Some cities in China are on the edge of starting to take it more seriously because they have a middle class, and the middle class then rises up and is like, we don't want to die.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of stories about both those countries making improvements. For example, in China, they've shut down some factories who were polluting and that couldn't get their act together. China also recently said we were going to stop taking so many, sort of junk recyclables that just end up probably in the ocean. So they're making progress. I mean, we're not selling to China right now, but I'm sure in the future we will.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to be a very interesting play for you because the lessons learned here, some other places might want to skip going through some of the mistakes we made here in America. I mean, if you look at Los Angeles, I mean, it was covered in smog for decades.
Yeah.
And now, Clean Air Act.
Yeah.
California, we've made this incredible progress. And electric cars, if everybody had an electric car, there'd be no smog over any city. It's so kind of mind-blowing when you think about it.
Yeah. I mean, if you've been to Beijing, though, it's still pretty bad there.
I went to Shanghai 15 years ago, and I was like, wow, I wish we had a sunny day. It's been overcast, I guess. And they're like, no, it is a sunny day. And I was like, no, it's not. And they're like, no. Those are not clouds. That is the smog haze. And I was like,
when I was in Beijing, someone was telling me about how they shoot something into the clouds to make it rain, some sort of radar, laser or something. And I was like, what? No, that can't be true. But apparently it's true. They're like, and it's a really smoggy day. They do something to make sure it rains and pollutes the ground, I guess. But.
There was a professor actually over in Berkeley, speaking of Berkeley, who started to quantify what was happening to people's lungs in China. I remember I had read about it, and I think he had estimated 2 years off the average lifespan if this continues.
Yeah.
It's basically like, and for these young kids, they're essentially smoking a pack of cigarettes a day from the age of 1 month old. It's really disastrous. I talked to people who want to relocate to China, and most people from the West who are considering working there, their number one decision to make is, do I want to subject myself to the air pollution?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are places in the U.S. that they found similar findings. I wish I had some specific examples, but I know that it's not always necessarily city based, but certain parts of the city, like if you are poor, you're more likely to live in a less desirable area, which might be, let's say, near a highway or near the port, like the Port of Oakland or something. Yeah. And the air pollution there can be really bad. I think that my co-founder was telling me about the Port of Oakland being bad, especially because all these trucks like idle and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a big problem, is the idling trucks. Like it's so obvious how to solve these problems. And as I said in the opening of the program, you look at it like the politicians and these, existing companies are not going to solve the problem. It's going to be entrepreneurs who identify a problem and then build a really clever solution that is undeniable in its efficacy, so that people just say it's easier to just comply with Mapistry than risk it.
Yes, exactly.
Well, listen, we learned a lot today. Husband and wife teams can do great work. Jason Lemkin is a great investor. He gets it. Putting out content works. The world is trending towards the right direction. The Trump reversals haven't been ridiculous, but it kind of goes back and forth. We'll see.
Yeah, they're not great, but he hasn't, abolished the EPA.
Right. I think I'm going to just disband it and save money and less regulations, less money spent. And everybody knows Trump has the greatest golf courses, so I understand the environment probably better than anybody, including the EPA. I mean, if you see my golf courses, perfect. All right. Sorry, Jackie. I'm triggering the libs. Don't trigger the libs. You can own the libs, but don't trigger the libs. This is Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro, the guy who's got the radical guy.
Yeah.
I love listening to his podcast. He was explaining the difference between trolling the libs and owning the libs. Trolling the libs is just getting them to react. That's not good. What you want to do is you want to own them with data and facts.
Okay.
Like, you're trans, but you have this chromosome, therefore you can't be, like, he's very anti-trans people.
Yeah.
Which is a weird place to plant your flag. I think when somebody plants their flag on something weird like that, maybe there's something going on. I don't know.
Yeah, he came and spoke in Berkeley last year.
And they lit the place on fire.
So when Milo Yiannopoulos came, it was a disaster, and there was like millions of dollars of damage because of rioting. So when Ben Shapiro came, there was a huge police presence, and not as much happened. But it was on the night we held our first conference last year, and he was there the night of our conference.
So traffic, insanity.
Well, and then I think people were worried about getting stuck in a big protest, and we even had some attendees from Cargill, and they were like, "Our global security people have told us we need to go to a different hotel because it's too near where the protest is going to happen."
Wow.
Oh my God, this is kind of embarrassing.
It's bonkers. Like, in Berkeley, they have a lot of these, like Oakland and Berkeley, a lot of protests.
Yeah. We're very politically active.
Very active. And then there's this Antifa.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if that's a real thing or if that's like you can't tell the truth anymore, because that could just be the Russians putting people out there to start fights and just cause chaos. So who knows if Antifa is actually a thing or not? I don't know. And then Milo Yiannopoulos, we all knew him from blogging days, and he was just a nerd blogger, and he was normal.
Oh,
he
really?
wasn't like a racist, crazy blogger. He was just like this, like, very matter-of-factly gay British blogger who had his own blog network. He was just like a normal dude. Like, you'd sit and have a drink with him. He was completely normal. And then this character emerged, Milo Yiannopoulos. So I was like, we all knew him and were engaged with him, and we just watched on Twitter as he went like completely Nazi.
Yeah.
And
I don't know. Maybe he's making money by doing that.
I think that's what it is. I think a lot of these right-wing folks who became like these characters, I think it just paid so well that they did it. But it is interesting. What do you think? Should they let those people talk on campus? Or is it not worth the trouble? Or is it a freedom of speech issue? I'm curious, as a Berkeley resident, what you actually think of or care.
Yeah, I'm torn because it's like, I support free speech.
Yeah.
But, every time the, college Republicans invite someone like that to campus, there's either these huge riots that cause all this damage, or the police have to spend $1 million preventing $1 million worth of damage. I don't know, at some point, it's like, who's actually coming to hear this guy speak seriously?
Like 30 people.
Yeah.
And they're making a mockery of the whole thing, so therefore it draws more attention to it.
Yeah.
If they just ignored it, like, who cares? Like, let him speak for an hour in the basement to a bunch of idiots, like, who want to sit there and revel and high-five each other. Just let them speak.
Yeah. And I mean, so
if we
don't let someone like that come speak, it's not as if he's being muzzled. He just isn't going to get to speak live in Berkeley. He can still put out his message online, and anybody who loves him can still listen to him. So I don't know. I'm torn.
This is very bizarre that on college campuses, the students themselves want to stop freedom of speech. It's just bizarre for me, because when I grew up, I worked at Amnesty International, and everybody was really into freedom of speech, hearing each other's perspectives. Even if it was racist and crazy, you still wanted those people to have a platform so you could identify them and know and keep tabs on them. And it was kind of like you wanted to hear the fringe ideas, but now the window is closed where it's like, that idea is just too fringe for me. Like, I can't even hear it.
Yeah, and that seems bad.
It's an assault. Like, they literally believe it's an assault. The words are an assault.
Yeah, and that seems bad. Like, all the trigger warning stuff, and I don't know, it's gotten a little extreme. But if someone like Milo is just doing it to troll people, and he's not really genuinely, expressing his views,
which is the case,
then is it really about like hearing everybody's views?
No. And if he's being paid by the Russians to cause chaos, and he doesn't even know he's being paid by the Russians to cause chaos, then we're all sitting here like, oh my God, we're having a logical discussion about a character actor, because he's like an actor, being paid by the Russians to cause chaos because he's gay and a Nazi. It's like, how do we deal with this? Like, the Russians are so brilliant. They're like, let's send a gay Nazi to Berkeley and see what happens.
It's not going to go well.
How is that going to go? It's like, wow.
Yeah.
Can you sprinkle anything else on top of it? Like,
people like to come to Berkeley to stir the pot. We've had like some pro-Trump rallies where people come, like, it's not Berkeley people for the most part.
No, they're coming from outside.
Like, all over the country.
It's a destination are coming here to do. White nationalists are coming to Oakland. This is a message to white nationalist, racist pieces of garbage. Do not go to Oakland. You will get your ass beaten. Like, this is not a wise decision. Unless you're bringing like a brigade, do not bring your white nationalist nonsense to Oakland or Brooklyn. It's not going to go well for you. They're just not going to tolerate it in that community.
Yeah.
It's bonkers.
Yeah. I mean, but it gets them on the news, right? Because everybody gets...
Or maybe those white nationalists, crazy maniac Nazi scum are Russian actors too.
Well, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
It's like, who knows?
Maybe unnowingly.
Unknowingly, right?
Yeah.
They could be paying them.
Yeah.
All right. This has been This Week in Berkeley Politics. My co-host, Allie Janoch, and I, where we talk about Berkeley protests, pro-con or otherwise. All right. Thanks for coming on the program. Thank you, Jason Lemkin, for the great suggestion for a guest. If you have a suggestion for a guest, fill out the form at thisweekinstartups.com and don't expect a reply. We're not replying, honestly. Please don't waste our time. You're not going to have a great suggestion. If it's yourself or something like that, the best way to get yourself on the program is to do great work like Mapistry has done and have somebody who's been on the program refer you. NPS score pretty high, huh?
Yeah.
67. Very nice. You're like in the iPhone territory.
Yeah, it's important.
And you check that NPS score regularly? People fill out the NPS forms and stuff?
Yeah. I have a monthly reminder to do it.
It's just it's not the be-all, end-all. You still have to have people look at the engagement, but it is a really good indicator.
Yeah, and it's like a good overall metric of, not just your product, but your sales process, your customer success, your marketing, everything. People are going to have a good impression of you if all that stuff is working well.
Right, because they're going to take all of that into account, the price, the value, the onboarding, everything, uptime, etc. And congratulations to the investors in this fine company, and we will see you all next time on This Week in Startups. Bye-bye.